Satellites are used to gather data about the origin of the universe. The Big Bang Theory is a theory about the origin of the universe. Evidence for the Big Bang Theory is provided by redshift and CMB radiation. Describe what is meant by redshift. So if you remember, let's say this is planet Earth where we are observing, and imagine that this is a star in the distance. Now the idea is that the galaxy is expanding, and what that means is the space in between all the galaxies is expanding. And with that expansion, what happens is, because the galaxies are moving further away from us, the light they're emitted, a bit like a sprinky attached to a sort of a point being stretched, the light is basically stretched, so, or rather the wavelength of the light increases. And because of that, if you imagine this is what, if it wasn't moving, this is what the light wave would look like. But because it's moving away, basically the distance between each crest of the wave is further apart. The wavelength is increased, and that means the light is shifted towards the red end of the spectrum. All parts of the light, all aspects of light are shifted towards the red end of the spectrum. Doesn't mean the light will look red, but they just take a shift towards the red end of the spectrum. So to answer this, describe what is meant by redshift. You have to only describe it, not explain it. Wavelength of EM radiation increases or moves towards the red end of the spectrum. EM radiation, which takes into account that there are lots of types of light, not just visible light. So all types of light that make up the EM spectrum shift towards the red end of the spectrum as stars move away from us. So to describe what is meant by redshift, so the movement of these stars that are moving away are causing the wavelength of light that they emit to move towards the red end of the spectrum. Next question. Explain how redshift provides evidence for the Big Bang Theory. Well, the Big Bang Theory says there was an explosion, and that explosion caused the expansion of space. So, Big Bang states the universe is expanding, and that explains why redshift is happening, because it will explain why the wavelength is increasing. Cosmic Background Explorer satellite observed CMB, cosmic background or cosmic microwave background radiation from 1989 to 1993. State what the M in CMB radiation stands for. Well, I've just given it away, it's microwave. Next, state what is meant by cosmic background radiation. So this is radiation that's found everywhere in space. It's found in all directions, and it's basically, we believe it's radiation that was emitted from the explosion. And as space has expanded and the universe has cooled down, this radiation, it's the frequency of this radiation has dropped into the microwave part of the spectrum. So cosmic microwave background radiation is radiation that comes from the universe. You can just say it like that. Explain how the presence of CMB radiation provides evidence for the Big Bang Theory. So I've just talked about the idea that it was produced in an explosion. So the Big Bang had an initial explosion that released this radiation. Very simple. And this is why Big Bang is accepted over steady state. Steady state theory isn't supported by the CMB radiation. It doesn't explain why the CMB radiation is everywhere in space, but a big explosion does.